welcome to episode number 17 of This Week in Perfect Team. And my kidneys is invisible.
Oh.
What is going on with my kidneys? He's not here. He's invisible for the first time ever.
Oh, there we go.
Now you're back. Holy cow. I could not do this show with a transparent kidneys. Well, anyways, let's focus. Not the best start we've ever had. So what are we doing here? So we are the show that provides instant community feedback on all new content releases, and Chris just dropped one on us now. He dropped on us the Generations, which was new to me. That was a really cool concept. Even going into the show, I had no idea what that was, what it even meant. So it was cool to hear the concept and to see it unfold. And now the linkage between those 8 cards makes only a ton more sense. And what on earth is going on in the chat right now? Holy moly. We got Mac Jax dropping a 10 sub bomb on the community, only to have Walnut do a 20. Holy cow, thanks so much, guys. That is incredible. You guys are the best. So we have got a great show for you guys tonight. As always, Kidneys is with me. You can see him. He's no longer transparent. How you doing tonight, Kidneys?
I'm doing well. I was a bit sad to be replaced, but at least I was replaced by the great and the one and only Bernie Sanders. So,
yeah, I was very concerned as that stream was going on. I thought that we were being replaced live and on air, and that would have been a really tough way to have that happen. I mean, Lord knows it's only a matter of time before someone comes along and does this shtick better than you and I do it. But it would have been extra painful to have that happen live and unexpected. All right, so What do we have going on tonight? We've got a great show for you. We've got a 30,000 perfect point giveaway. And you know what? That's the least exciting part of the whole show. We're going to start the show with a card rundown. We're going to do the 8 Generations cards, tell you how strong they are, how weak they are, who might just be a bird profile. Dare I say it? Do we have a bird profile? We'll find out. We're going to play OK Boomer, OK Zoomer, and our theme tonight is going shopping, and I can't wait to see how Kidneys does with our trivia questions for him. And then last and certainly not least, sliders. We are going to teach you guys how to use those pesky little sliders in the game, and we're talking about strategy sliders for your team. We're talking about sliders for your individual players, your hitters, your pitchers, and how to get the most out of those. We'll do the perfect point giveaway in between Boomer and sliders, so make sure you stick around for that. As a quick reminder, broadcast schedule for this channel here: on Thursdays we do this show. On Sundays I hop over to the mothership and do the Perfect League World Series play-by-play and analysis over there, normally starting between 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. And then Tuesdays, I've got my one-on-one interview show, and my next guest is going to be Maxfire, which should be a great listen for one and for all. Next, quick reminder, join the Discord. I will link it in the chat. And the reason you really want to join it sooner rather than later is because we are talking about and formulating the final plans for something that I'm really excited about, and that is the Perfect Team Community Choice Awards, where we are going to be running a little bit of an award show, a little award banquet, if you will. We'll do it on February 25th, and what we're going to do is have audience-selected award winners for a number of categories. And currently, we're deciding on what those categories are over in the Discord. We've got Best Discord Shtick, Best Sub-Community Leader, Best Pack Ripper, Best Auction House Guy, Best International Player, and we are certainly open for some more ideas for categories. So join the Discord, let us know what you think, and make sure you do not miss that show come late February. Maybe PHI Cross Foxes has a good suggestion. Needs a Best Logo Award. All right, so let's get into the cards. And before I do that, I feel like I've heard even more notifications in the chat. So we've got Chuck gifting out 5 more subs to guys in the chat. Thank you so much, Chuck. We've got Lipitor Kid supporting the stream. You're the man, another Lipitor Kid. You guys are just the best, and we're already having so much fun. And we haven't even started, but we do start here. And we start with Dustin Pedroia, and it's no secret that Ben, Mr. Kidneys, you are a Red Sox fan. You love yourself some Dustin Pedroia. And so I'm just going to remove all drama and reveal this is your favorite card. And I'm going to give you the mic and let you go first. Why do you like Dustin Pedroia?
Man, growing up as a kid in the early 2000s and seeing this guy come in as a rookie and win Rookie of the Year just as a fantastic player and help the Red Sox then the next year hit the World Series and win that too. I mean, just unbelievable generational talent. So consistent in his play, such a down and kind of in the dirt player that would always get messy to make those crazy plays at second base, as well as just being one of the best contact profile hitters in the game for such a long time. So I think he's a phenomenal player. I think this card actually does him a pretty great justice for what kind of an awesome player he was throughout his career. So I'm very satisfied with this card. This is a really great deal.
I echo your sentiments in really enjoying the scrappy nature with which Dustin Pedroia played the game. And I mean, scrappy is really underselling what he was. I mean, he won an MVP. He was a heck of a ball player in so many different ways and could beat you in a number of different ways. And as we look at this perfect team card here, what might not pop off the page to you looks better and better the closer you look at it. If you look at the bat similarity score table we have there, and look at the versus lefties side, which is where he's going to do his most damage, every single card in there is a card that would have not only been good early meta, but dominated early meta. Like Huey Jennings, Jackie Robinson 97, Dan Brothers, all these guys were the ones that were the highly sought after cards early going. And Dustin Pedroia is going to do better than all those lefties in there because he's going to be batting from the right-hand side. So this is a profile that's going to hit well for a diamond card versus left. Now, in the established meta, post face of the franchise, having middle infield be what it is right now and having a defensive profile here, a little light on the range. I'm going to stop short of saying that he's got a home in your perfect league ready, perfect league winning lineup. But this is still a very fun card and maybe one that you can find a spot for in a diamond tournament roster.
Yeah, I don't know if this makes the cut as a diamond tournament roster. I know second base is a little bit of a weird position there, so I'm not sure. Maybe somebody in the chat can help me out. It's probably a little bit too low on the range, but honestly, it's just a really fun card that I'm excited to have. I know a lot of the time we talk so much about if a card's competitive or not, or how good it is. But I think for anybody who's a Red Sox fan out there, this card is really accurately representative of what this guy played and how cool of a career he had. So whether you like or you hate the Red Sox, I think you can really respect Dustin Pedroia as a great player.
Speaking of hating the Red Sox, isn't that a thing that's just reserved for Yankees fans? Like, do general baseball fans hate the Red Sox too, or is that just a Yankee thing?
I think it's actually quite a lot of people, as the Red Sox won so many World Series in the past, 15 years or 16 years now. And they've, just been a really strong team and a really, they have a lot of money. So they're a fun team to hate, I think.
Yeah, I never really bucketed them in there as like a hateable franchise. Now, Boston sports in general, I'll go along with you there. Hating the Patriots is like as American as apple pie, so I'll go with you there. But I always considered the Red Sox like the Cubs' curse buddy, and I never had ill will to them. I was happy to see them win their first title. Now they got a little overzealous by stacking up some titles, whereas the Cubs took until 2016 and only got the one. But, I never say that I crossed over into true hatred of them or personifying them like the evil empire in New York. But maybe that's just me.
I think if you look at recent history, Red Sox have done a lot better than the Yankees have. So I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah. I mean, you guys did take a century off of World Series winning. Maybe that allowed you some rest to stretch your legs now.
It's our millennia. What can I say?
All right, next we've got Javi Lopez. And I love me some Javi Lopez. And I love him because of how much I hated him growing up. He was such a good player. He had that one just nuclear season for the Braves, and I was growing up in the Atlanta area and watching the Braves just be so dominant year in and year out, always win the division. I went back and looked at his baseball reference page just because I wanted to remember how dominant and impactful that one season he had was, and it was the 2003 season. He played 129 games. He's a catcher. He didn't have the DH to rely on. He was 129 games played in the National League, and he put up this triple slash. What? 328, 378, 687? Is that even legal? Oh my goodness. Put up 6.4 Baseball Reference WAR. He and he was the main catcher on a 101 win Braves team, on a team that was so good and had so many great pitchers, had so many impactful bats with Chipper Jones. You had Andrew Jones out patrolling center field. Like, Javi Lopez kind of got lost in the shuffle, but he was every bit of the most valuable player on that particular Braves team.
See somebody in chat saying he had 38 stolen bases against them. That's quite a bit there. Maybe that explains some of the catcher ability. So realistically, looking at this card, it's not going to play. I'm in a really good mood tonight, so I don't know. I'm pretty happy I got Pedroia, and it is a bit of a bird as I see pop onto the screen, and the expected perfect league slash, if we can pop that up, is very low, and he's comparing to some gold cards and then some of our similarity places. So really not going to play. I think I can use this to talk about the importance of catcher ability. If you are newer player, or you haven't been here before, you may not know how impactful catcher ability is on your pitching staff. It actually makes them pitch better. So it is one of the most single important stats in the entire game to boost, and you pretty much want as high as you can get with a guy like Campanella or a guy like Ivan Rodriguez on your team.
So how does it work, Ben? Mr. Order of Operations, Mr. Game Engine, how does the higher catcher ability equate to or convert to additional run prevention for pitchers?
I think it's about 1 point of catcher ability was 0.01 point of ERA, which is quite a lot if we're talking a 20-point gap. It's 0.02 ERA or 0.2 ERA rather, is a big deal. So it's pretty great. It's a huge deal across your entire staff. And gives you probably the most defensive value out of any card, maybe other than shortstop, you can get at catcher. So
that is Javi Lopez. Again, fun for me because of the player that he was in real life, and my memories of him. That this is absolutely a bird profile and not one that's going to stand out in the Diamond Tournament meta or in the main league meta at this point in the game cycle. Next, we've got Gary Carter. And so we're talking about catcher. We're talking about catcher ability and its impact on your roster and why you want lots of it. And on comes Gary Carter. And so you just mentioned how important catcher ability is. Well, we see that Gary Carter's got 99 ability and 93 arm. We compare that to Roy Campanella, who's at 100 ability and 80 arm. So Carter would do a much better job controlling the ground game, whereas Campanella would have just one notch on the catcher ability spectrum. For context, we have Pudge Rodriguez at 102 on the catcher ability, 105 on the catcher arm. As we look at Gary Carter's bat here, he's a platoon, so you're going to want to start him versus left-hand pitching. But even in that split, I do not expect him to hit anywhere near as successfully as Roy Campanella does. What about you?
I actually have them pretty close to each other in slash. So I have Carter is 1 point less on average, but 1 point higher on base, but he's about 21 points less with on base plus slugging. So they're pretty comparable in my opinion. I think the advantage is Campanella is going to give you some more power, obviously, versus lefties, but Carter overall is quite a bit better than Campanella is versus righties. He's dropping 20 points of avoid K higher for a little bit lower BABIP. And so I think it's a way better hitter against right-handed pitching. So I think it's something like a neutral park maybe, or, you just want another good guy because he does have the good arm if you're in a league with a lot of base stealing, or, I think he can certainly play at the highest level. I don't think it just straight up replaces Campanella, but I think it's another tool in the box.
I think what this is it's the defense lover's backup. So the person who's out there wishing that they could just start Pudge every game because they're in a league that has Ricky Henderson and a whole bunch of other people stealing bases willy-nilly, Carter's going to give you that better control of the ground game. Now, I don't know if that defensive lover is going to be willing to take the 1 point downgrade on catcher ability for whatever the conversion rate was that you just shared with us. But I think that's the use case where you would put Carter over either Pudge or Campanella, is if you're in a league that has a ton of base stealers and you're currently platooning Campanella and Pudge, and you're sick of your Campanella starts equating to wildness occurring on the base paths.
Yeah, for sure. I think he is really second best to Pudge as your defensive catcher. So if you're really high on defensive catchers, then you run Pudge in this card pretty much. I mean, obviously it's not going to be, Campanella is very cheap. He's a great piece for the price. So it's going to be a little difference there. But, you know, if you have a pretty high defensive team, I think this is certainly a really good option for you.
Yeah, and speaking of availability, this is a 100 rated card, packs only. The rippage in the overall environment is down from what it once was, so the supply is likely to stay low for this card. So you're probably going to have to pay a premium for that debatable upgrade or debatable unique card within your league, and not be running your Campy and Pudge.
I just want to kind of explain the small riot going on in the chat. I'm sorry, Chris, but there's a player in the base game called Jake Wong, and one time I asked one of my IRL friends, should I trade for Jake Wong or not? He was like kind of a borderline starting pitcher, and he said yes, and then I won the World Series. So we did it again next sim, and I couldn't win the World Series. They told me it because I didn't have Jake Wong. And well, I got Jake Wong, and then I won the World Series. So Jake Wong has kind of become my good luck charm. And I think the people want a Jake Wong card.
Well, we're going to have to take that up with Mr. Jardine himself, because we will not be successful in any endeavor to get Jake Wong into this game. There's only one man who is able to birth perfect team cards, and that is Mr. Jardine himself, who just rage quit this stream when we started not effusing praise on Mr. Gary Carter here. So we're going to need to take that up with the powers that be here, because our ability to get Jake Wong onto the scene here is limited to none.
Someday I'll get Simba.
Do notice here, we do have a little stock defense in right field. I don't know what the use case would be to make that applicable or make that valuable for you, but it's there.
Maybe if we're playing like an open tournament, that's certainly a useful thing. That's not something to knock off, that he has actually the rating, not just the outfield stats. He has the rating. So that's pretty cool. Also, this card cannot run bases, I just noticed, at all. So that is a detriment to him. Does Campy have any base running?
I think all the catcher cards are bad at base running.
The only one who's decent is Pudge, of all people.
Pudge is speed 21, so he can run the bases a little bit, but he's still going to hit into all the double plays.
He's got 80 stealing. Jack that slider up. We'll talk about that later.
Campy's speed 21, stealing 63, base running 39. So none of them can really run the bases.
Yep.
All right, so that's Gary Carter. Hopefully we didn't hurt Snaggle too much. Next, we've got Ron Santo, third base for the lovely Chicago Cubs. You know, when I first saw this card art, I couldn't recall ever seeing what appears to be like the fraying edges or the weird-looking character-filled border. And so I thought that Chris might be messing with me. But after comparing it to other cards with that same card art and era, I think I looked at a Carl Yastrzemski, I noticed that it matched. And that's good on Daniel Wallner for making the card art look kind of cool and almost frayed, if you will. But in looking at this card here, we do have a card that is going to be a slight platoon, slightly leftward leaning, as Chris Jardine put it on his stream. As the power is a little bit stronger versus left, a little bit better eye, a little bit better avoid K. So pretty typical for a right-handed batter. Defensively, it's really strong for a third base player. You know, 95 range was a ton for a third baseman. 101 arm, which is a really strong arm. But the challenge with this card is it is a perfect card. So we're going to need to compare it to where it can play within Perfect League. And it's just not going to dent what's already there. There's already too many cards that play third base and will play third base as good or better or hit a ton better than this card here. I'm thinking of Rogers Hornsby. I'm thinking of Wade Boggs. And so this Santo card, I'm just not sure that it's got too much of a home. What do you think?
Yeah, defensive pure third basemen are kind of a dying breed. When you're looking at this card, you kind of have to compare it to like the old school defensive third baseman and Jackie Robinson, and he kind of just fell short with the bat in pretty much every place. He can't run like Jackie, and the fielding is maybe a little bit better, but marginally, if so. So I think it's just a card that suffers from being a strikeout machine. There was a big debate in the Discord the other day of should strikeout cards actually be worse cards in the game. I think that's a fascinating debate for another time. But he's certainly, you look at the slash from, we're rocking on his strong side a 202, 270, 319 is not really going to cut it at the highest level.
Yeah, and you see from that expected perfect league triple slash line, that's not a production line you want out of your third baseman whatsoever. And before we move on from this card, this was Ron Santo, the player, known for his infectious love of the game, his infectious love of the city of Chicago, of the Cubs. And so, like my parents' generation, Ron Santo was obviously a favorite amongst all of them. For me, Ron Santo was always the broadcaster. He was the kooky guy on the radio that Pat Hughes needed to corral and keep focused on the game itself. So I didn't quite have those same visceral memories of the on-field performance itself. But Ron Santo, definitely an all-timer as it relates to the Chicago Cubs franchise. Next, we've got Don Newcomb. Holy cow, take a look at this card. This was the bomb that Chris dropped tonight. And I've had to put up graphics here unlike what I normally have because I've got to have the pitching similarity, I've got to have the hitting similarity. And what I see with this card, what I see here with Mr. Newcomb is a dominating early meta bat combined with like a Raleigh Fingers knockoff or a discount Raleigh Fingers type profile. And I went ahead and pulled Fingers' back of card ratings for comparison here. So you can see now Fingers is a lot better on the movement. So whereas this Newcomb card is vulnerable to the long ball, it is uniquely vulnerable. So that's not something that Raleigh Fingers has succeeded in spite of Fingers is stronger in that rating. But from a stuff perspective, Newcomb's going to be better versus left and probably pretty similar versus right, trailing a bit on the control side, but just really unique in terms of being able to deploy this in those cap tournaments, play him both ways, get him on the mound in relief. In addition, throw him as a starter, shoot, and then in addition to getting him up to bat as a DH. So just a really, really cool card. And as you see the bat similarity table, which is at the bottom of your screen now, you see a lot of bats that really impacted the early meta of this game. Ty Cobb, you had Oscar Charleston there, who hung out a long time until face of the franchise. You got the 96 Tris Speaker. So this is just a really, really cool card. And this one is actually my favorite of the evening.
Yeah, I think this is like your new cap tournament overlord, which is really fun. Cap cards are so cool, that the two-way players that are, fantastic. And this card, he rocks the BABIP. He rocks, in the spirit of the old Don Newcomb, the Iron, my favorite card, the one I told you guys to play in bronze. I wish he had less power, so his BABIP was even more insane, but I think at some point, it might be even too much. Because he's already at like 105 or something crazy. I think the one issue with this card as a pitcher is its movement is very, very low. And I don't talk about movement a lot in the positive aspect, but I was rerunning some numbers the past week, and movement's value actually kind of surprised me. It was a lot higher than I expected. And especially if you guys saw, I had to change how the sheet works, and I posted an entire giant essay on that. If you're curious, it's in DRC's daily dump and his Discord. No, I think this card is going to be very sought after for tournaments in a lot of ways, and I don't think it's really too much of a league play card just because the movement. But I mean, I'm sure as a pitcher he'd be fine through gold, and I think I'd love to see the stuff boost because it's probably pretty substantial on the card, which would be cool, if it gets an extra 10, 15 points in the pen or whatever.
And as we look at the cards most similar to this card in Perfect League, the challenge is finding something with a similar movement profile. So we've got, Rube Marquardt and Christy Mathewson, not too dissimilar from a stuff and control perspective, just so different on the movement. It's hard to know how much pain those extra long balls are going to wreak on the overall ERA number.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying with this card is every card in the top level has like 85, 90 movement. Like you almost can't find one that's not 85 to like 96, I think was the range I saw, something like that. And so that's why I've been really pushing for hopefully uncapped stats next year. Smile. Because I'd love to see more diversity across cards, and then we can get some cooler things and, you know, explore more, because this card probably isn't going to be pitched, you know, at the highest level. And I would just love to see what a card like this could do in that kind of environment, you know?
Yeah, I think Fabic with a great point in the chat here that when you're playing a 1625 cap, you're not going to run into many hitters. And so your true exposure for that 70 mark there is maybe a couple of guys who can make you pay for it. And the rest of the lineup might be something that he can knife through, in addition to on his off days being able to provide value with the bat. So I think this card's super interesting. It's my favorite in the content set, and one that I think might just be the highest price ticket from the evening, depending on how many cap tourney stalwarts are still out there looking to use that for their game economy. Next, we've got Wally Shang, another catcher. We were so catcher heavy tonight. I don't know that we've ever had a show with this many catchers, and this one here is another platoon bat for you, which most catchers are, and that fits pretty well. And this one is a catcher that's going to hit a lot better versus right-hand pitching. You've got your 98 contact rating with a very, very strong 100 eye. The challenge is going to be the strikeouts. See the avoid K down at 55. And then in addition to that, you just don't have a very strong defensive profile. So for the reasons that Kidney's pointed out earlier, this guy's not going to help your pitchers. He's not going to be adding value in run prevention by getting your pitchers that extra strike, by doing what he can from behind the plate to minimize the run scored for your opponent. So an interesting card in the story behind it, but not one that I see being one that people are rushing out to get. What do you think?
That's exactly right. I mean, a lot of these comps aren't really cards that, you know, have seen a lot of play. You know, you're looking at the V left is a lot of pretty unplayable cards there. And then the V right is, you know, maybe you had some action early game with Eddie Collins and Bresnahan aren't terrible, but I mean, he's quite significantly worse than Collins and maybe a little better than Bresnahan. But I just, you know, there's a lot of really good catcher options that are also really cheap with Pudge and Maurer and Campanella. And so I don't really see a place for this card, and I don't think it's good enough to play in like a diamond tournament environment.
Wait till next year in the chat saying R.I.P. Maurer in what is his latest attempt at online shtick. Now that he knows that there's an award being handed out for it, he's really trying to cover his bases and make sure he's got a broad platform. Doesn't want to just rest on his laurels of why not a 79.
I would rather play Bresnahan, I think, than this card.
Next, we've got Dixie Walker. Not a catcher, but what we do have here is a card with stock defense at all three positions. Strongest in right field with the 97 rating. A card that's backed by 79 range, which is probably fringy in the Diamond Tournament realm. But that flexibility for all positions could be something of value for you there. And the versus right profile is a nice shape. You know, 97 contact. You got an okay eye. The power is not problematic there for your BABIP. Avoid K is 87. So an interesting card. I don't know enough about the corner outfield meta in Diamond tournaments to estimate this one's impact here. I don't see too much, but I could be wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know corner outfield in Diamond, but I think off the top of my head, I'm thinking Ichiro, you know, competing with this card maybe in right field, and Ichiro is going to be substantially better with defense, and the bat doesn't seem too dissimilar at all. I mean, he's got a little bit more power in his bat v right, but yeah, also there's Gwyn Clemente or Diamond cards as well. M Trivial's putting in the chat. So not going to replace definitely Diamond Tony Gwynn in the outfield. But, you know, he's a 94. So he's got a little bit. He doesn't have lower cap than Gwyn either. I just realized Gwyn's a 91, which is crazy to me. Maybe you get some flexibility out of him. He's certainly not a bad hitter V right, but his V left is so weak it's going to be hard to get a lot of use out of him.
So that's Dixie Walker, and we end our generation's journey here with Cy Seymour. A perfect card, a perfect center fielder who's coming with a lot of stock defense in right field as well, actually higher rated in right than he is in left. And holy contact, Batman. Look at this. 123 contact, really stretching the upper bound of contact here on his versus right profile. Now he's doing it with 100 rated power and only 66 on the avoid K. He is a platooned card, so versus left, you have significant degradation across the board on your ratings there. And from a base running perspective, pretty solid. Not something that's likely to exude tons of excess value, but not someone who's going to cost you. So what do you think of Mr. Seymour?
His defense isn't bad. His V right bat is pretty cool. I think the issue is, like I touched on a little bit earlier, cards that strike out a lot in this game don't consistently hit. Is just how it kind of works. The game doesn't really favor 3 true outcomes at all. So if you're unaware with the power of Avoid K is because of the order of operations, it ends up being how often does your bat connect with the ball, right? Is really what Avoid K stands for. And there's so much power in putting the ball in play. And also just getting hits because you're making contact with the ball that I don't really see this card being played at the highest level. I was wondering, and maybe somebody can help me out in chat here, does this play in like a dead ball tournament maybe? It's got pretty good stock range. It's a shame it's not as left field, or because I know some people are always complaining about the left field options in tournaments. So I'd be curious if anybody has some feedback on that for dead ball, but outside of that, that's probably its niche play.
Yeah, and we see with the expected perfect league triple slash line here versus right, which is going to be the stronger side. We're only looking at 250, 297, 373. So not logging the type of on base percentage we expect out of our corner outfielders, and not being able to provide value out of center field with only 89 range. So not a card that is likely to be deployed in the perfect league at the very highest level. All right, so that is our generation set. You've got Kidneys claiming the Pedroia card. I'm claiming the Don Newcomb card as my favorite, but I'm going to give a special little hat tip here to the Javi Lopez card for seeing him get a new diamond card and really appreciating what was an interesting, if not short-lived, peak for him in Atlanta, as well as the Ron Santo card for putting another Cub on center stage, which is always appreciated. Any closing thoughts from you?
I think it was a really cool set. I think we got... I touched on this a little bit earlier, but we so often get caught up in the practicability of cards that a lot of time people want to see their favorite players in the game. I mean, I know I've been petitioning for an Andrelton Simmons card for the past few weeks or the past month now. And it's really cool to see a lot of cards that I think are really well represented. Sometimes we get a card and we're like, does this really fit a player's career? But I think, looking up a lot of these guys on Baseball Reference, because I have to enter them into my sheet, it's, I think this is a really cool set. So outside of the lack of Jake Wong, we did a pretty great job tonight.
What do you think Chris has in store for us next week? How much fire do you think we're getting next week?
I'm hoping it's a Hall of Fame snub set. That's been my dream. So I think, we'll get some things like that. Maybe we get Hall of Fame GOAT. What's it called? Hall of Fame GOAT Harold Baines himself as a top tier card. So we shall see.
All right. So that concludes that section. It leads us to our 7th inning stretch. And as you guys all know, during our 7th inning stretch, we play America's favorite game show called OK Boomer, OK Zoomer. And the spirit of this game show is that Kidneys, born in all of 1999, will be shown things from the 90s. And he will have to recall what they are, draw on what limited memory he has of the decade, and what more appropriately is memories or exposure to those items since the decade, as he was all of less than 1 year old when the decade concluded. In return, Kidneys will show me one Zoomer meme from today, and I will try to piece it together on behalf of all of those who don't understand Zoomer memes and why they exist today. So first we get started here, and I told you the theme was going shopping. So what I have for you, Kidneys, is I have 5 stores that were the it place to hang out in shopping malls in the 90s. If you hung out in malls, if you killed a Saturday afternoon with your buddies, trolling around a mall, eating fast food, dropping into stores, doing this and that, you know what these stores are. And I don't know that kids from your generation had nearly as much exposure to that sort of being a normal Saturday activity as much as mine did. So can you name what this store is? I've left the initials. I've left them unblocked here. EB.
No. The only thought I had that came to mind because of the pink letters was Baskin Robbins, and very clearly it is not serving ice cream. It looks more like books, maybe comics.
Yeah, this is a video game store. This is where you went in the mall to buy the new video game that dropped. You want to get it on day one, you head to the mall, you jump in line, it's probably 8 people long, and you wait, you grab your copy.
I have no idea. EB.
Electronics Boutique.
Oh.
I'm guessing that they're all well out of business at this point.
Yeah, I've never heard of one.
Yeah, I think Yuka got it in the chat that GameStop likely was the end to the Electronics Boutique.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like a GameStop to me, but yeah, I've never heard of one, so I guess GameStop probably put them down.
Oh, Snaggle says that EB Games still exists.
But that's probably Canada. This is GameStop owns all of them up there. That's cool.
That sounds like a very Canadian answer. All right, next, we've got a clothing store, and I have been so generous to give you the first 3 letters to it. GAD. Now, what clothing store was the place in the 90s starting with GAD?
I just want to point out that guy's jeans are so 90s. They hurt me a little bit.
They sure are.
I don't know. I have no idea what starts with GAD. It's a clothing store.
So this
Certainly
one was Gadzooks. Nope. Gadzooks was definitely a place you poked your head in, see if they had a nice little sale running for you. Tucker824Z says he still has those jeans. Probably wearing them right now. All right, 0 for 2. Slow start for the Kidneys. I've got an easy one for you. This is a layup because I believe these are still still in business and around. Now,
I mean, if that's a Radio Shack, I spent most of my childhood in a Radio Shack buying a little electronic components to put stuff together.
Well, then you've got it, and you are in the win column. This is indeed Radio Shack, which was a place that you could buy expensive things you don't need in the mall.
Nah, you get they had little cool electronics you could buy for a few dollars that you could try and assemble things with. So you buy little batteries, little motors, all sorts of stuff. They did shut down a few years ago mostly. So
well, anything in the mall was twice as expensive as it was outside the mall.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, next we have got a place where you would buy CDs. Maybe you've never bought a CD in your life, but this place, it was one of the bigger stores in the mall. Normally they had one of the bigger layouts within the mall without being a department store. And I'm giving you the last name. The last name of this 2-name store is Goody.
No clue. I've bought plenty of CDs. I used to have, ye old CD player, but not this one coming to mind.
And one thing that I forgot to call out here is DishNet helped me get some wood paneling to cover up the answers. So I've been using Dish's wood paneling here to conceal the answers until they're ready. So call out to Dish in the chat. Yeah, this is Sam Goody. Sam Goody.
Never heard of it.
Last and definitely not least, this is where you bought toys in the mall. This was the place that you were dying to get your mom to let you sneak into. No, this wasn't Toys R Us. This was in the mall. And I'm giving you the last word here. It's toys. But what was the name of the store? What came before toys?
No clue. I think I've only grown up mainly with like Toys R Us being the big deal around here where I live.
And I'll tell you, that was a big deal to me too. Seeing all the Toys R Us close down, that was pretty hard to swallow there. There was nothing more fun than walking into a Toys R Us and seeing mountains and mountains of toys just to look at as you walk through the store, and then ended up being able to get a Matchbox car on the way out. This was
Legos,
KB
man.
Toys.
KB. I feel like I've seen this before, or I feel like I've seen like one around before, but I don't think I've ever been in one.
They are most definitely out of business now, I believe. All right, so 1 for 5 for the kidneys. I gave you 2 extra ones today because I thought this could be tough, given that a lot of these places likely went out of business when you were still a youngin'. But you did get one of them. You got the Radio Shack, and we will move on to your meme here. What do we have here?
You've got to open more packs. And with the perfect points discount, you get more bang for your buck.
Silence, whale. I do not wish to open packs anymore. I just want to be happy.
What? I gotta play it again.
You've got to open more packs. And with the perfect points discount, you get more bang for your buck.
Silence, whale. I do not wish to open packs anymore. I just want to be happy.
Oh my god. I don't know the meme at all. Not at all. I don't know the first thing about the meme. So you've got me entirely stumped there, but thoroughly entertained.
Well done, Sweki. Sweki OK is just a masterpiece. He was working all night on this one. And man, I'll post this in like every Discord I know, because this is by far my favorite meme we've done. The original meme is my favorite meme ever. It goes by the name of Silence Wench. And it is the Doge slicing through the wench to assert his dominance in a way, saying that he just wants to be happy. And it is just, it's a beautiful meme. This rendition of it is amazing. I'm going to make sure everyone can see it. And wow, it's just great stuff. So
All right, we'll play it once more on the way out.
To open more packs. And with the perfect points discount, you get more bang for your buck.
Silence, whale. I do not wish to open packs anymore. I just want to be happy.
All right. Well, this is a mixed bag here. So you went 1 and 4 on the memes, or on the identification of the 90s items. I completely whiffed on your meme, and the meme was so good, I'm giving it to you. This is your show. Kidneys wins tonight, even though he goes 1 for 4, but you earned it on the back of the highest quality meme that we've seen tonight, and one that I had no idea the connection to.
absolutely fantastic. I think the real winner tonight here is Sweki himself, because man, he knocks it out of the park with these things.
Oh, so that concludes another episode of OK Boomer, OK Zoomer, this one going to the kidneys. So now, as we transition to our guide to perfect team sliders, let's open up the giveaway. There we go. So type exclamation point ticket into the chat, and you will be entered into the giveaway. And we're going to give away 30,000 perfect points tonight to 3 different winners, each winner taking home 10,000 perfect points. So we'll let that run for a minute. I took off the confirmation there because it just clogs up the chat. So all of you people typing exclamation point ticket, it is working. We're up to 100 people and counting, so don't worry there. And so let's set up this section here. So we have not talked about sliders yet on this show. We've talked about ballpark factors. We've talked about team composition. We've talked about a number of things. But we've never gone into sliders, do's, and don'ts. So let's frame up a bit about what we're going to be talking about tonight. We are going to be talking about what type of cheese, what type of burger. I mean, the importance of the bun. Do you go pretzel bun? Do you go potato bun? No, wait a minute. Not these sliders. We're talking about different sliders. Get out of here.
I prefer ciabatta as my bun.
Ooh, a ciabatta guy. Very strong. We are talking about these sliders. We're talking about how to use your team strategy sliders, how to use your player strategy sliders, and the best way to turn that into an advantage for you, or at a minimum, something that's not hurting you. So let's close out the giveaway and get our 3 winners and then jump into the segment. First winner is Rap Addis. Next winner is Rascal 7666. And last but not least for tonight, we have the Bogeyman 751 or 759, excuse me. I think that is another repeat winner. So if you are one of our winners tonight, please DM me on the Discord and give me your perfect team username with the correct capitalization. And then we're typically able to get you those perfect points by morning time. So, Slider City, let's go. So we have broken this down into slider do's and slider don'ts. And Kidneys and I are going to take turns going through each of them. So first, I'll start with a slider do. And I say do, crank up your favor left-right matchup slider all the way. And here's why. This game is extremely split-tastic, splitty, splitterama. And what I mean by that is that lefties really struggle against left-handed pitching, and righties really struggle against right-handed pitching. And so by cranking up this slider, when your AI goes to your pen and says, who should be the guy that I tap in this moment? If you've got that slider jacked all the way up, then more often than not, the AI is going to match the handedness of the pitcher it's bringing in with the batter that's at the plate. And that's what you want, especially in those late game moments, because let's think about it this way. Those bullpen arms are oftentimes not very balanced. You could have David Price out there, and David Price is a nightmare for lefties, and he really struggles against righties. And so you want to make sure that he's only being brought in the game to dominate one of those matchups, which is really heavily in his favor, and not walking into a situation where he's going to be up against it. Now, Kidneys, for his slider don't. I'll let you go ahead and read this and explain it.
Why are you bunting? Man, we come into an era of some of the greatest hitters of our generation. And if you're playing at a high level, you are playing with the greatest hitters of your generation that are crazy contact, crazy power, crazy on base. Why do you want to bunt with them? Unless you're Vince Coleman and you can't hit the ball and you need to compensate for that. There's no reason to. Small ball is outdated and archaic. It's not how we win games. Sabermetrics has overcome, and bunting is just not efficient.
So you found a way to subtweet Vince Coleman into your don't bunt speech, and I don't appreciate it at all. Moving on. Next page, slider don't. Don't color match the ratings to the sliders. So this is probably, or at least it likely feels intuitive when you get the game, as you get a base runner who's yellow in speed and they're blue in stealing, and then they're back down to yellow in base running, and so you go to your sliders and you try to match it all up. And that's not the best way to do it. And maybe the best way to illustrate that, or the best example that we have in the perfect team world, is Pop Lloyd, who's pretty darn blue in all of his ratings, but because his aggressiveness on the base paths from a base stealing perspective is so much higher than his efficacy, he ends up with a really horrible stolen base conversion rate. And so you end the season with 25 steals and 20 caught stealings if you have it jacked up. So you don't want to color match the ratings. You want to take those into account. You want to understand the level that you're at. You want to understand the surrounding talent at the level you're at and use that to contextualize your decision making. And a player like Pop Lloyd, or a player similar to him, whose aggressiveness in stolen bases is so much higher than his ability to convert them, bring them all the way down. They are not going to add value to your team by stealing bases. So bring it all the way down and allow them to be aggressive in terms of taking the extra base or in terms of tagging up, but do not let them free to run into a ton of excess outs on the bases. They're only going to hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where mine comes in. Make sure to turn down the stealing base and base running sliders. And people go, why would I want to turn down base running? I have mine around the middle, or I have mine pretty high, and my base running still isn't great. Well, that's why it's not great. So really, realistically, if you want consistent high value base running, you want to go almost as low as you can go, and your value overall and your base running runs will go up. And this is just a consistent rule of baseball. Aggressive base running most of the time is not worth it unless you're super successful. So, and outside of the one or two players like a Ty Cobb or a Ricky Henderson who can steal bases, use your individual strategies and set those, and you set them to override and make those players be good stealing. But just overall, in general, on your team, keep the sliders low unless the speed ratio is really good, where you have a low speed to a higher stealing or a higher base running.
And I think wait till next year is touching on a good point in the chat here, saying, or just contextualizing this conversation with the run scoring environment. So as we're talking about your main leagues, which are beholden to the 2010 baseline, those are all going to compare pretty similarly in terms of the run scoring environment itself. Whereas in a tournament environment, it could be wildly different. From our Bronze League tournament stream, we know that run scoring is really difficult in that meta. We know that the ERAs of the pitchers and the OPSs of the hitters are very much at odds with one another, where pitchers are dominant and hitters really struggle to succeed. So in that environment, is there excess value in maybe being a little bit more aggressive when you get that guy on first base, or maybe turning up your Vince Coleman to the max? Absolutely. Next.
I'm getting some resistance on my bunt comments, but I will stand by them.
What fun is bunting? Actually, the only time that I'm really looking at bunting is when I'm trying to get one of my horrible bats who's out there for their defense to not hit into a double play and to just go ahead and sacrifice. Yep. I'd love it. Like Ozzie Smith has bad sacrifice bunt in this game, but I would love it if he had a better sacrifice bunt rating, and I would jack it all the way up. And anytime there's basically treat him like a National League pitcher. If he's at bat and there are people on base with less than 2 outs, just bunt every time. All right, next slider do. Place your opener slider in the middle if you plan to sometimes use them. So oftentimes people are confused, or maybe they hit a couple bumps in the road as they're trying to use the opener follower mechanic in the game. And oftentimes what's happening is you're setting everything right on your pitcher page, but on your sliders page, you've got openers set to never. And so no matter what you do on your pitcher page in terms of denoting that you want this guy to be an opener and this guy to be a follower, none of that is ever going to take effect if you don't go to your opener follower slider and place that somewhere other than never. And I just sit mine right in the middle. It's not going to do you any harm there. It's not ever going to force you into the opener follower unwillingly or make you do it when you don't want to. So just if you're going to use that or dabble in it, make sure that's your first prerequisite before you start messing with pitcher rolls, because nothing's going to matter unless you make that shift.
Yeah, and I would say even turn it all the way up, because unless you're specifically designating an opener, you probably want to be using that opener. So I don't think there's a reason not to turn that up if you're going to be using it.
All right, next we've got kidneys with a slider don't.
Don't ignore shifting. Like I touched on earlier, we live in a sabermetric world where we can track batters and we can shift the ball to them. A hot tip I got from somebody was don't turn it up all the way. I don't know how accurate that is, but I trust that man a lot. So put it up pretty high. You have good players. They have great range, but put them into an even better spot to field the ball. Don't waste that opportunity.
So and I believe each slider is a 10-point scale. It's from
Correct.
1 to 10. So of that, where do you have yours?
Personally, I have it at an 8 is what I was advised to do. I would say anything. So like, I would probably keep it probably like 7 to 10. Just make sure it's high.
Yeah, I have mine at 8 as well. I haven't labbed it enough to know what happens when I put it at 2 or put it at 1. But I've always been comfortable living in that world because batted ball profiles exist for a reason. Pull hitters exist for a reason. So, that's what your AI is going to be shifting off of. They're not going to shift a spray hitter a ton. They're going to shift the pull hitters. So I trust in the shifting as well. All right, next page. I've got a slider don't for you. Don't use your team level steal, bunt, or hook sliders. Don't use them at all. And I'm saying that because I want you to use them at the player level. Determine how much someone's going to steal on the player strategy, not on the team strategy. Same thing with bunting. Same thing with base running. Same thing with pitchers and their hook, both as a starter and a reliever. And this does mean extra work. A global setting applies for everyone if you let it, but you shouldn't do that. You should go player by player and set the settings that make sense for that particular player and for that particular team in the moment. There are going to be some times when your bullpen is entirely fried. Before that sim, go ahead and go into your starting pitcher and jack his hook all the way up so that he can try to get a complete game for you. And there's other ways that you can assist the AI in coming to that conclusion. But at a minimum, use those hook sliders on the player level to your advantage to meet the needs of your team, both for the season as well as the moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think, quick hooks on RPs with a bigger bullpen. Get yourself better matchups. We talked earlier about the left versus right slider. I was somebody for forever who said, I only need a 12-man bullpen, because I can, or a 12-man rotation, total with math, with 7 guys in the pen. And for forever, you can get away with it. But at the end of the day, you want to get as many good matchups as possible. This is how you win the game, right? So I've gone up to the 13-man staff and the 8-man bullpen, and I've seen a lot of really good pitching results because of it. So turn your quick hooks up on your relief pitcher if you're willing to run those 13 or even 14 guys in your staff.
So good question in the chat here from Hero Driver. Talking about my don't tier of don't use the team level ones. Now, as far as the relevance of the team level sliders when you have all of your players on override, I don't know. Maybe there's some residual or layered effect there where if your team level is at a super quick hook and all of your player levels are at a super low hook, maybe there's some balancing of the two. I wouldn't expect there to be. Because it does say override. That's not something that I've tested before. So I think I have mine somewhere near the middle there. But again, I'm using all player level settings there.
And Tech has an excellent point about my do is make sure you have a diverse bullpen if you're going to max the quick hook and you're going to go with the favor lefty-righty matchup. Make sure you have players or pitchers for both sides of the ball, lefties and righties, so you can get into those good matchup situations.
Next, a slider do. Tweak your sliders if the performance merits an adjustment. So sometimes, even though you've had a card tuned in for weeks on end, you just find yourself in a weird situation. I want to say someone, it might have been Marksman, had a Ty Cobb that just kept getting caught stealing last week, no matter what they were doing with their slider. And so do monkey with your slider if it's problematic. If you're getting an observed performance that is not working for you, don't be afraid to move it around a bit. You could be in a league with a slightly different run scoring environment or a slightly different defensive surrounding environment. Maybe one league has a ton more pudges than you've ever had before, and so all of your base runners need to come down a notch because they're going to get caught stealing if they're running too much. So just keep an eye on your observed performance and then tweak as necessary.
For sure, especially with base running. I talk about starting low, but that means, slowly raise it. If you're seeing really good performance or maybe not enough aggressiveness, slowly, bring it up, but always start low and then bring it up. Don't start high and bring it down. You'll be throwing away runs. And don't turn up your pinch hit and pinch run sliders if you do not have the players for them. I see so often people ask me, should I be pinch hitting? Should I be pinch running? But they haven't looked at their team really realistically. And this is why I've been so high lately on a card like Ricky Henderson, is because he allows you to use those pinch run sliders. And, it's, depth of bench is a luxury for cheaper players, free to play players, people who don't have as much money. You can't always fill your roster with those good players throughout. And so if you can't, why are you have your pinch hit slider up? You want to keep your starters in the game as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely a good point there. So next we've got a slider don't. Don't expect the AI to always do what you intend. I know that might sound a little counterintuitive there, but the AI, despite your best intention, cannot be tricked into doing exactly what you want. You won't be able to get it to pick the pinch hitters that you want in the order you want them to be picked. You won't be able to get a number of things to behave exactly as you want. And so my advice to you is not to get frustrated when the AI is deviating from your intention and to break your back trying to figure out what sequence of sliders and what sequence of settings to get the outcome, but rather to understand that the AI has preferences and the AI is going to do what it's going to do, whether it is prioritizing Ken Griffey Jr. to pinch hit over Roger Connor or another sequence of events that is not exactly what you looked at. Understand how the AI is going to operate and then team build around that. Maybe you can't have Griffey on your team because he is so hot of a pinch hit bat. And you know that you'll never get Connor into those games late because it's always going to be Griffey. Maybe there's another route for you. But don't kill yourself trying to get the AI to operate in a way that it's simply not going to.
Yeah, I know literally people have taken Ken Griffey Platoon off of their roster because the AI seems to love him so much. That wasn't just an anecdotal expression. That was really what's been happening a lot to people. So, make sure that you're watching who's getting pinch hit and who's pinch running and seeing if it's worth using. And then we have my do, which is defensive sub aggressively. I'm going to say it one last time. Sabermetrics people, advanced statistics, set up your depth chart to have defensive subs and optimize your positions. And so when you get into tight games, go into your strategy, and there is, defensive substitutions in blank, and you can pick 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, and you can pick how many runs you want to have it come in. And these will win you games by putting your better fielders back into the fields if you already have a lead.
D sub aggressively. I toggle around with that. I think currently I'm on 8th inning and 4-run lead, but I've oscillated a bit there. I've gone down to 7th inning. I've pinched the lead down to 3. I've gone any lead. So I'm in agreement with you that you want to get those D subs in there. The only counter point I have there is just understand that if you're trying to get someone a day of rest and they are set to your D sub, they're not going to get that day of rest if that D sub condition is met. So you've got Ozzie Smith playing every day, but you also have, as part of your lineup configuration, you have him set as a D sub for shortstop for whatever reason. Well, when he gets his day off, if you get to that 8th inning and you're winning 3-1, they're going to pull him back in. And then he's likely going to need the next day off as well. And so you're costing yourself there. So it does create a little bit more of an active management need for you to make sure that you're not desubbing your tired guys in on their days off. So just beware of that.
For sure. And I don't know if the never uses pinch hitter when tired option applies to defensive substitutions. So I think that would be interesting. I don't know if somebody in the chat knows that answer. It'd be really helpful, because if that does work, then that's an easy out. If you need a player to rest, you can just check that box and it'll work.
Speaking of checking, someone needs to check API. He's getting a little blustery in the chat. But I thought a run allowed in the 9th inning was the same as a run in the first. Why would you desub anyone? Someone rough him up and get him out of here.
If you have the lead, you want to keep the lead. But see, I've gained the lead by scoring runs in the first, which are worth the same as runs in the 9th.
Ooh, Kidneys with a hot take when we don't have a hot mic on API to counterpunch. So we'll likely have to move on there before API finds a medium to get back at you.
I've offered API a mic many a times. He's just got to show up someday.
All right, so that is it with regards to sliders, do's, and don'ts. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty and actually look at where Kidneys and I have our sliders, jump on into the Discord. I will link it again one more time here. We're happy to get very granular with you guys and say here's exactly where we have our sliders and why we have them and how those deviate over the course of the game and what our individual player sliders look like. The segment that we just capped there was really just general do's and don'ts and some of the mistakes that we see more and more people making that we feel are pretty avoidable. So get the core concepts right and then come into the Discord and ask us for any further details, and we can take it from there. And with that, that's going to cap the show. Kidneys, what'd you think? How did we do tonight?
I liked it. I know we've had a lot of people talk to us about, what sliders should be set for a long time. So I think this was a good segment that I've been wanting to do for a while. So I was excited we got to do that. Got some cool cards. That Don Newcomb is awesome. So I hope that answers most of your guys' questions. If you have any more, as always, feel free to DM me on Discord. I love talking to you guys about baseball. It's what I'm passionate about. If you like the content tonight, be sure to follow the channel or subscribe and just help support us to keep doing this. If you like me, you like my analysis, my content, I'd love to see you Monday night at 9 o'clock. I'm going to be rolling out my new show where I help people look at their rosters, and we do some stuff with that. We do some stuff with tournament roster building. So I'm really excited to bring that to you guys as another avenue to learn some more about the game.
Heck yeah. Monday debut. And what's the name of that show again?
Is going to be The Meta with Kidneys.
And that's twitch.tv/ and you need to make sure people know how to spell your kidneys because you like to mess with it.
Link it in the chat for everyone. Yes, I do love to mess with it.
Yeah, definitely check out that show. That show is going to bring a context and an angle that doesn't exist currently on the Perfect Team Community airwaves. So definitely check that out. Also, check out the Perfect League World Series on Sunday.
Yes. Absolutely.
So we'll crown another champion. We'll see who's there. Will it be API? Will it be? I think Roscoe's still in there because he won last week. We got a number of familiar faces in the crowd, and we'll crown another Perfect League champion. And I think that will be the final. No, Dishnet will be right after that, but that's going to be the final day of our current Drops world, and then we'll move into the new Drops world. But that should be a good time. Tuesday, I've got back on this channel here my interview with Maxfire. Make sure you don't miss that. And then bring me your ideas and your nominations for the award show that we have coming up. Again, definitely not taking ourselves super seriously here, just looking to craft some content, do a nice year in review show, and recognize some folks that have really been at the center of a lot of the fun for this year. So definitely pop into the Discord and let us know your thoughts there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys haven't watched the Perfect League World Series before, I highly recommend it. DRC does some great strategy breakdown. You can learn a ton. Whenever I'm starting a new game or I want to get better at a game, the first thing I do is I look up the best players and I watch them play. So if you want to see that broken down for you, go check that out on Sunday. And Maxfire is the guy who taught me to play the game and a lot of other really great players. So that's probably going to be a fantastic interview. I can't wait for that one personally.
Awesome. Let's recognize some supporters of the stream tonight. We had Walnut coming in off the top rope and dropping 20 gifted subscriptions to the community. Those gifted subscriptions are going to enable people to fully interact with the show Discord and to use all of our lovely emotes within the channel at the tier 1 level. So thank you, Walnut, for doing that for 20 others. MacJax did the same for 10 folks. So thank you very much, MacJax. Chuck, thanks for the support as always. He did the same. So you guys are absolutely the best. From a other show support perspective, we had Crash SF Giants, we had Lipitor Kid, we had Bad Weave, as well as others. I see Extreme UW jumping into the fun now. As always, thank you guys so much for the support. We do this, and we absolutely love it that you guys are hanging out with us and that you guys show us the love that you do, and it makes all the difference in the world. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and close up the show, and then we will see you guys on Sunday night.